And at this time, he was upstairs in a building behind him. The influencer guy from before was holding a phone and live broadcasting everything. Everyone online is in intense discussion. The number of viewers is skyrocketing. And so Gaia's abilities were revealed to the public. And inside the National Emergency Conference room, the zombie virus already had these leaders incredibly worried. They are still thinking about how to cover up the situation and preserve their positions. An employee rushed in holding the live broadcasting footage of Gaia. The situation has taken a completely unexpected turn. Everyone doesn't know if Gaia is a friend or an enemy of humanity. Gaia looked at this group of zombies that had lost their mobility due to her electric shock and had not fallen yet. All the zombies were staring at Zoe with red eyes. Gaia realized that he needed to deal with the virus' original entity first. After calming down, he sensed that Steele's presence was nearby. When he turned to look, he found Steele on the rooftop far behind Zoe. A crow parasitized by Steele was perched high above, observing everything. It calmly directed the zombie herd to attack Gaia and the others. Steele swore to eradicate Gaia, seeing her as a threat to his own existence. Even if it can't kill you, it will strike your soul. Gaia immediately sank her body. He derived Tiger Fist and dug out a stone. His eyes emitted a sharp blue light. He transformed into a human-shaped cannon. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel in front of the screen. This is a crow that can control zombies. Gaia uses the power of a bear. He derives Tiger Fist and digs out a stone from the ground. His eyes emit a clever blue light, aiming at Crow Steele. After the violent explosion, the zombies behind Gaia lost control and fell down one after another. But just 2.5 seconds later, Gaia sensed that something was amiss. The glare symbolizing death appeared once again. The zombie gradually regained its struggling expression and stared at Zoe. It turned out that Steele was lucky to have narrowly avoided this blasting blow that pierced through the mountains. The zombie herd let out another piercing roar and was about to rush forward. Zoe was scared and started squealing loudly. Gaia grabbed her trembling hand to help her stay calm. He said, "Don't be afraid. Whether it's fleeing to the ends of the earth or standing against the world, I will also protect you all the way." He picked up Zoe as he spoke. Let her hold on tightly to him. At the moment when the zombie is about to touch her, Gaia jumps off the high building with a leap. This scene was also conveniently recorded by the broadcasting live influencer. The Prime Minister couldn't believe that the broadcasting live was real. He wants to cover up the content of broadcasting live. But the video recordings have already been crazily broadcasted by major media outlets. The situation has completely escaped the control of the country. It has caused a sensation worldwide. On the crowded streets, and in the subway trains speeding by. Even the major universities are in a state of shock. Gaia suddenly became a well-known figure. People were debating whether she was a superhero. And this segment was also seen by the commander-in-chief of the military. But in her eyes, Gaia is not a superhero-like existence, but a monster. Gaia is running with Zoe on her back at this moment. The zombies behind him are chasing him relentlessly. Steele controls a flock of crows to fly over. Gaia slammed on the brakes in a hurry. He just felt very annoyed. Little did he know that the real danger was behind him. Steele ambushed Zoe. Gaia looked ahead and suddenly saw a crow slowly descending. A strong feeling of unease surged in his heart. He turned his head and saw Zoe with a wound torn by a crow. Gaia stood still in confusion for a moment. At this moment, the chasing zombie herd suddenly stopped. The control people all regained consciousness. They had no idea what had just happened. They also had no idea how they ended up there. Gaia looked at the crow that had originally been parasitized by the Steele original entity. It was completely lifeless. He knew that Steele's goal had been achieved, while Zoe still had no idea what was going on. Later, Gaia informed Zoe that Steele's original entity had parasitized on her body. There is only one way to save you now. That is to cut off your entire arm. Zoe was instantly scared pale after hearing that. Before she could react, Gaia was about to act. Zoe kept backing away, shouting. The virus cells had already spread in the body. Even cutting off the arm wouldn't help, you fool. Later, Zoe and the two drove back to the research center, where everything began. Perhaps there was a way to save themselves there. And at this time, the government had already identified the source of the steel virus outbreak. They also obtained the research log of the former host department head, Anthony, and his computer files. Those materials detailed the entire process of department head Anthony's transformation after being bitten by steel. And the document A that can save humanity. Officer couldn't believe what he was seeing. And there is only one way to save humanity. That is to kill Steele's host no matter who it is. The officer sighed in relief after reading the information. Luckily, the method is so simple. The two people who were unaware of the situation had returned to the research center, only to find it heavily guarded. Zoe said she understood the identity of the researchers. She said she needed to get in as it was a matter of human survival. At the same time, the government officer learned that Steele hosts appeared at the research center together with a mysterious man featured in Broadcasting Live. He sent a suit-wearing man to talk to them. The suit-wearing man asked Gaia and Zoe to cooperate with him for questioning and investigation. He then asked the two to separate temporarily. Zoe said that time was running out. She had to go to the research room to confirm. He kept insisting that the two of them cooperate with him, but what could he do? He asked Soldier to take Zoe away. Gaia suddenly became furious. What are you trying to do? With just one look, he made all the soldiers afraid and raised their guns vigilantly. They feared that this monster, Gaia, might do something terrifying. The suit-wearing man trembled all over in fear from Gaia's just now stern gaze. He forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart, and once again requested Gaia to cooperate with him. And the scene of the soldier raising his gun before him let Gaia remember the vague memory of someone shooting at her. Gaia gestured for them not to aim the gun at herself and Zoe. Otherwise, they will all die. Suit-wearing man asked Gaia to calm down. Otherwise, they will have to shoot. Gaia was just about to kill them. He was stopped by Zoe. She didn't want to see Gaia kill for her again. Gaia reluctantly lowered his head. The suit-wearing man noticed Gaia calming down. He immediately gestured for Soldier to take Zoe away for investigation. When the two separated, Zoe also comforted Gaia not to worry about herself. It's just a simple inquiry. But wait until they return to the research center. Zoe doesn't understand why they have to handcuff themselves. The woman explained that you are parasitized by steel. This is also a means to prevent it from controlling you and causing chaos. The bald-head guy next to you is also ready with a tranquilizer. Gaia was taken to the Ministry of National Defense building. He was interrogated by the Minister of the Ministry of National Defense, Arya. She asked Gaia to explain the superhuman abilities in Broadcasting Live as soon as she came up. Gaia just said she didn't know. He also asked how Zoe is doing now. Minister did not respond to him. Instead, he started talking about his own father. Although her father was a small police officer and died early. However, he left behind an investigative diary. It is a story about a mysterious existence. The father was investigating that existence. He was killed by that monster. And this Minister Arya's father. He is Police Aaron who shot Gaia's mother 47 years ago. A soldier entered to report at this moment. He said there were results from the research center. Zoe is the current host of Steel. The minister said it's good. It seems that as long as that girl is killed, the world can return to its original state of peace. Gaia heard and got angry, breaking free from the handcuffs. She faced the murderous Gaia. She, who could sit in the top position of the Ministry of National Defense, was fearless. She was about to speak up that this was to save humanity. Gaia punched through the bulletproof glass. Minister Arya told him not to waste his energy. "Listen to me first," she said, taking out the photo of the monster from her father's investigation journal. "Although it seems impossible given your age, you look too much like that monster. And with your abilities, everything makes sense. So you are the monster from back then that I mentioned, right?" The photo above is a picture of Gaia and Wendy together. When Gaia saw the woman in the photo, in an instant, he remembered why he wanted to destroy humanity. His lost memories suddenly flooded back into his mind like a tidal wave. The woman who has always been by his side. The woman who always says, "I love you," to him. The woman who is willing to sacrifice herself to protect him. The warm woman who keeps appearing faintly in his memory after losing it. It's his mother. He cried in an instant. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel in front of the screen. A man possessing the force of nature finally remembered his mission. That is to eradicate humanity. But before that, he wants to resolve the doubts in his heart. And inside the president's office, the investigating officer submits a document. The content of the document is a request to exterminate the source of the zombie herd. That is Steele's host Zoe. The president hesitated. Is there no other way but to kill the innocent girl? The officer said that with current human technology, we have not fully grasped the danger of Steele. We should eliminate the threat posed by Steele as quickly as possible. This is undoubtedly the best choice. Please make a decision as soon as possible, Mr. President. Even if President hesitates, the fact is right in front of us. No one can change it. One person's life and the lives of people worldwide, he still understands how to weigh them. With the dropping of the president's seal, Zoe's death certificate is officially effective. The news quickly spread to the research center. They started preparing to execute Zoe. Although they had guessed early on that the outcome would be like this. But they still felt sorry for this innocent woman. Return to the Ministry of National Defense building. Gaia was stimulated by the photo in Minister Arya's hand. He stood still for a long time. Looking at the photo of his mother, all the lost memories came back. The first time being born as a human, he did not understand why the woman in front of him was so warm in her arms. He also didn't understand why this woman would desperately look for him after he ran away from home. It wasn't until the woman sacrificed her life to take a bullet for him that he finally realized. Gaia only then understood that he had always been cocooned in maternal love. He should have called her Mom earlier. He remembered those police officers shooting mothers. His eyes returned to the deathly indifference of the past. He asked if Minister Arya was the daughter of a certain police officer at that time. Did she go to such great lengths to bring herself here to avenge her father's death? After saying this, he pulled up a chair and sat down. But the minister said that it had been a long time, and she didn't have the heart for it anymore. Now she is only thinking about national security. And Gaia is currently a potential threat to the country and humanity. And Gaia is too lazy to bother with her so-called noble intentions for the country's people. He just wants his mother's photo now. And let Minister Arya obediently hand herself over. Then she can keep her life. But Minister Arya just said, "What if I refuse to hand myself over?" She wants to provoke Gaia to see how he will react, in order to assess if he poses a threat to humanity. Gaia remained in a deathly silence, gently waving his arm. He said not to refuse my request. You are that person's daughter. You have already made me very unhappy. Just a moment ago, the high and mighty Minister Arya, who looked down on everyone, is now completely scared silly by Gaia. She hurriedly mentioned that her father died early, and she didn't have much affection for him. Gaia suddenly asked her if she knew how many lives would be lost in a human lifetime. In the reincarnation of thousands of generations, I have lost many of my kind because of you humans, feeling endless pain. I finally obtained the only warmth with great difficulty. But it was taken away by your father, all I had in this world. So you quickly severed ties with your father. It's really ridiculous to me although Minister Arya does not know what Gaia is saying. But she knows she will die if she doesn't hand over the photos. Gaia took the photo and stood up slowly. He exuded a deadly aura all over his body, and was about to leave. Minister Arya gathered his courage and asked if he was going to save Zoe Gaia. He said indifferently, "It's just a human death. It's already meaningless to me." Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel in front of the screen. The man simply threw a light punch, punching through the 2.5-meter thick titanium alloy steel door of the Ministry of National Defense. Even the steel wall that can withstand nuclear attacks on the perimeter was blasted through with a large hole. His eyes were as chilling as the abyss of hell, emitting a frightening atmosphere with every step he took, and the shattered bodies in front of the big hole, making him appear as if the Grim Reaper had descended. These battle-hardened soldiers were scared stiff on the spot. Minister Arya in the interrogation room, although she was no longer afraid of death, but under the intimidation of Gaia's recent fist. The most primal sense of fear in her body was awakened. Her hands unknowingly began to tremble. Then she issued orders to the soldier. Fully eliminate Gaia. Sound the first level alarm, which is the highest alert level in the country. Go back to the research center. The black suit officer says that only by killing you can the zombie herd crisis be resolved for humanity. As soon as he finished speaking, he ordered people to start implementing the euthanasia plan. Zoe couldn't believe this was happening to her. She asked if there was no other way right after. Unexpectedly, officer's remark on the pinnacle of human moral coercion left Zoe speechless. The lives of the whole world versus your own life. I hope you can understand. Zoe reluctantly accepts this fact. She cries in silent agony. Officer comforts Zoe. Don't be afraid. The process is just like falling asleep. You will quietly die without any pain. Little did Julia know, a strange smile escaped from Zoe's lips. On the deserted street, with consciousness restored, Julia kept searching for Zoe and Gaia. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of Gaia's figure. She hurried over to ask Gaia where she and Zoe had gone the previous night. How come she couldn't reach them all day? But in the blink of an eye, something astonishing made her profoundly shocked. Only to see a military force led by tanks, all guns pointing at Gaia. She had no idea what was happening. Gaia coldly glanced at Julia. His doubt in his heart has not dissipated yet. He wants to find the answer. And in the research center. At this moment, steel inside Zoe begins to awaken. She suddenly controlled the researcher to inject sedative into the officer. However, strangely, Zoe's consciousness has not been completely taken over by steel. As soldier lead opened fire, a tank shell was fired out. They completely disregarded the life of the innocent Julia. Gaia remembered the days of working as a laborer and the woman who caused her distress. It seems like there has been a slight change in his heart. Don't forget to hit the like button in front of the screen and subscribe to my YouTube channel. After the explosion and thick smoke dissipated, the soldiers stood in terror in their original positions. Having fought for decades, they had never seen such a scene. That person was like a monster, seen only by Gaia, using her body to shield against tank shells, and raising a giant wall with the force of nature to protect Julia. His mind was now in turmoil, not understanding the feelings he had towards them. Are they relatives or friends? Or are they just strangers passing through during an amnesic period? He clearly knew that Zoe was not his mother. But the order from the Ministry of National Defense to execute Zoe keeps echoing in his mind. What kind of feeling is this after all? He doesn't understand why he worries about her. He also doesn't understand why he bothers to intervene and save Julia. It's really annoying. Gaia asked if Julia was injured, looking expressionless. Julia couldn't be sure if Gaia was still the person she knew. She cowered in fear on the side, too afraid to speak. Gaia, seeing this, continued to ask, "Why do these humans want to kill me and Zoe?" "To save all humanity. What do you think? Do you want us to die?" Although Julia was extremely frightened and didn't understand what Gaia was saying, she wished for Gaia and Zoe to live well. Gaia had her answer upon hearing this. The soldier lead, who had snapped out of it, ordered the tanks to be loaded with ammunition. Gaia made Julia close her eyes. The following scene was going to be horrifying. Just as soldier lead was about to order to fire, Gaia teleported and covered his mouth. He raised him high with one hand. Some soldiers around hesitated to fire, concerned about their captain's safety. Some had already been scared to the ground by Gaia. Humans always say they should sacrifice the few for the sake of the majority. But I find this statement ridiculous. Why do we always have to sacrifice for the collective instead of living well ourselves? The so-called sacrifice can be self-chosen, but why can it also be forced? In fact, what you humans practice is the law of the jungle, where the majority of the strong trample on the interests of the minority mercilessly. The power to decide always remains in the hands of the strong. So I have decided. I'll kill you all. At that moment, he seemed to understand a lot. Gaia covered in blood. It reminded him of the feeling of childhood. That long-lost feeling. It's truly delightful. It really makes people nostalgic. I don't understand this woman at all. She tells you to close your eyes, and when you don't, she starts crying. The man turned around 2.5 times. He proceeded to kill all of the people who were going to kill him. He wanted to eliminate everyone. The reason he did this was that during the 4.5 billion years, he had lived in various forms as different species. Tens of thousands of times, he died due to human greed. Or it might be due to human self-satisfaction. Thus, he harbored resentment towards the human heart. This life, he was born as a human being after great difficulty. He received the warmest thing in this world. That is motherly love. He lived with his mother during that time. He has let go of his resentment towards people. He no longer harbors thoughts of eradicating people. However, people often feel fear or possessiveness towards the unknown. Humans either want to eliminate it or study and use it for themselves. On that day, humans shot and killed the chain that bound Gaia, the wild beast, with their own hands. Humans opened the Pandora's box of destruction upon themselves. The box contained Gaia herself. The following recap will tell the story from Gaia's perspective. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel while you're in front of the screen. A powerful explosion turned the sky into a blood-red color. The air is filled with the smell of blood. The fearless broadcasting lid media is broadcasting live throughout the air. That man is like the arrival of the Grim Reaper, continuously killing soldiers on the scene, leaving behind a ground full of debris. It's like a living hell on Earth. The government has raised a level 1 alert status for this dangerous individual. He is simply a monster. Some soldiers are still resisting stubbornly. You always ask me why I kill. The reason is simple. I have learned the language of humans. I have learned human thoughts and understood human society. Humans always think they are the center of the world. As long as it is related to human interests, it is considered acceptable to harm other creatures and destroy the environment. Through countless reincarnations, I have lived as different species in each life. When I was a shark, humans cut off my fins to satisfy their taste buds, staining the entire beach with blood. When I was an elephant, humans mercilessly killed me, taking away my tusks for meaningless artworks. When I was a crocodile, humans pulled out my tendons and peeled off my skin. I was made into various leather goods to satisfy human vanity. When I was a monkey, I could only become a test subject for human medicines. Even as a dog born, I cannot escape the fate of being under the human's control. I am in an infinite cycle of life and death, reincarnation. I have died at the hands of humans tens of thousands of times. That is why I have these thoughts. I still hate humans now. The reason is just that simple. And in this life, I was born as a human. The warmth that I have so hard won. She had her life taken away heartlessly by humans. It is you humans who created me, this monster, with your unbearable arrogance. It disgusts me. The loneliness of billions of years of reincarnation, who among you can understand? It's not me who is wrong. Nor is it this world. It's this human society. The helicopter debris flew towards Julia. But the warmth that I used to have. That warmth also taught me the human heart. It changed me. It made me want to protect the people I care about. But there are always people who act recklessly and challenge my limits. And at this moment, Julia is already extremely scared. She asks me to take her away from this terrifying place. I thought I could shake off human emotions. In the end, I found out that I still couldn't do it. I'm so annoyed. Forget it. Let's just send her home for now. I'll find another place to kill her. Even if I don't have to see you, I can still feel that you are alive. I will fulfill the promise I made to you in the past. The whole world wants this woman dead. It's because she carries the virus original entity, a creature that can control human consciousness, inside her body. Steel. In Zoe's body, the awakening steel controls the research personnel to walk like zombies. However, strangely, steel did not fully take over her consciousness. The officer in the control room saw the situation starting to spiral out of control. He immediately gave orders to everyone. Cancel the euthanasia plan. Switch to plan B. Shoot Steel, Host, and Zoe on the spot. She kept watching as the researchers in front of her kept charging forward. Zoe suddenly had a splitting headache. She could feel Steel controlling these people. They were rushing towards the person who was trying to shoot them, as if they were zombies with no regard for their lives. She could still feel it. Steel wanted to devour the remnants of her consciousness. She clenched her teeth and made a bold decision. Her strong headbutts made the zombies start to become sluggish. Then, they steadily lost control and fell to the ground. The executioner, who was supposed to shoot Zoe, looked confused. It turns out Zoe was trying to knock out the steel inside her body and keep the pain to maintain her consciousness. And at this moment, Steel's voice resounded in Zoe's mind. "Woman, have you seen the situation clearly? We are in a symbiotic relationship now. They want to kill you, and I am trying to save you." Steel kept talking incessantly in her mind. Zoe roared angrily. "Shut up! You're making too much noise." She slammed her head against the floor once again. This time, she almost lost consciousness. But the clamor of Steel finally subsided. She looked at the pistol on the ground. Zoe remembered what the black suit officer said. "The lives of the whole world and your life are in your hands." Zoe picked up the pistol from the ground. She aimed at her own head, wanting to end her own life to save the world. Steel was completely panicked by this. He wants to stop Zoe, but he couldn't control her body at all. "What do you want to do, you crazy woman? We will all die like this." But at this moment, Gaia appeared. "What are you doing?" She saw that it was Gaia who had arrived. Zoe, who had been on edge, couldn't help but burst into tears. Gaia looked at her like this. He didn't know how to comfort her. And at this moment, a voice sounded. It turns out it was Officer who had been tranquilized before. "Why did you stop her from committing suicide? Zoe is now Steel's host. Her existence itself threatens the whole world. She must die." However, Gaia couldn't be bothered to deal with him. Ask Zoe if they want to commit suicide just because of their nonsense. The next second, Gaia grabbed Zoe's hair, telling them not to act foolishly. Don't think sacrificing yourself alone can save the world. The world's biggest threat is not you. The existence that can threaten the world. From ancient times to the present, only the human species exists. The existence of humans indirectly caused the extinction of many species. Additionally, they are the only ones who understand how much environmental damage has been caused. And in their mouths, the whole world consists solely of their own species, humans. Such a dirty and selfish human group. They are not worth sacrificing for. After saying that, Gaia gently stroked Zoe's head. "So you don't have to worry. Their sins don't need you to take responsibility alone. It would be better if they were all dead. At this moment, the man in the black suit raised his gun and shouted, "This is for the whole world. She must die. Even you have to die." At this moment, Gaia got angry. "I will keep my promise to protect you no matter what. You have to stay alive for me." Zoe can't believe her eyes. The man was just about to shoot the woman who posed a threat to human existence. He was killed by Gaia the next second. Zoe was stunned by this. She couldn't believe Gaia would use her beautiful, heart-healing power to kill. Others are also trying to resist, but they have no way to defeat Gaia at all. A mere handgun is useless in front of Gaia. Zoe cried out loudly, urging Gaia not to kill anyone. He heard Zoe shout. Gaia stopped her actions, but he faced Zoe's crying plea. Gaia still killed him. "Don't be over-empathetic. You just make me sick." Zoe broke down at the sight, kneeling on the ground and crying loudly. He looked at Zoe, who was shaking and crying all over. Gaia showed no sign of comfort at all. And his ideas are the same as Steele's. Kill them before these people kill Zoe. In human terms, this is what is known as self-defense. Zoe thinks he is just talking nonsense. Her sadness in her heart instantly turned into anger. "You are clearly indiscriminately killing innocent people." She also questioned Gaia about who you really are. Where has the simple and lovely Gaia gone? If you judge others by their actions, who are you? Before that, the amnesiac me was just a shell. And now I am covered in blood. This is the me who slaughters people on Earth. I am the true Gaia. But to the end, I haven't changed at all. Even if the world perishes, I will also protect you. And at this time, outside the research center perimeter, there are already a large number of soldiers surrounding this place. Gaia plans to take Zoe away from here. Unexpectedly, Zoe shook off Gaia's hand. She said she would die here no matter what. She knew Steele's danger. She insisted on ending her life here against all odds. Gaia was instantly furious as a result. He was casting lightning in his hand. He just wanted to slap this over-empathy woman to make her face reality. And Zoe also feels a strong fear of death. She can really feel that Gaia wants to kill herself. But Gaia only got angry for 2.5 seconds before taking a deep breath. "I almost lost my mind because of your anger. I almost wanted to chop off your limbs earlier and take you away by force. After all, there are regenerative cells of steel in your body. But I'm afraid you might not be able to hold on and die on the way." The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Zoe was completely scared silly by his actions. But even when Gaia calmed down, she still didn't want to see Zoe get hurt. And he asked Zoe to be honest. "Do you really want to die? Are you really not afraid of death?" He saw Zoe remain silent. Gaia began to confess her origins. "I have lived for 4.5 billion years, underwent countless life and death reincarnations. No matter what kind of pain I have experienced, I have never thought about ending my own life. Even in my most desperate moments, there will always be a light to illuminate the hope for me to live on. And I am also your light." "So you are lying. You want to live on." Gaia saw through Zoe's merciless tearing of her will to survive. At this moment, Zoe could no longer help but sob in Gaia's arms. Who has the ability to confront the world? Who would give up their own life? Who does not want to live for themselves? They are now on the same page. The man on the rooftop was deathly silent and indifferent, like the Grim Reaper. He gazed down at the 25,000 soldiers below, already petrified by his aura, rooted to the spot. Gaia told Zoe to close her eyes. The next scene would be very frightening. Zoe took one last look at the crowd of humans before Gaia took action. "I'm really sorry." And at this moment in the presidential palace, Minister of National Defense Arya requested permission from the president to conduct missile strikes on the location of Gaia and Steel Host. These two individuals are now threatening the existence of the world, but the president thinks she is completely insane. There are civilians and soldiers from our country in that area. It is absolutely impossible to launch missiles there. However, the next second Minister Arya raised his gun and aimed at President, saying, "Mr. President, you signed to have Zoe killed to save the world with one life. It is the right thing to do. Now, I have decided to sacrifice a few to save the world. And my choice is also correct." The president is very angry. But Arya doesn't care whether he is angry or not. The president's bodyguard rushed in immediately upon hearing the gunshot. They saw the president, who had been shot dead. The bodyguard, holding a gun, questioned her about what had happened. Minister Arya said coldly, "President has been infected by the steel virus." But the bodyguard saw through her lies in an instant. "You're clearly initiating a coup." Minister Arya, on the other hand, had a gloomy expression on his face but smiling. "So what?" In the next second, several soldiers appeared in the president's office. Then 2 bodyguards were shot into a hornet's nest. Minister Arya enjoys the feeling brought by this power. She then asked Soldier to bring President's Secretary General up. The Secretary General was mumbling complaints under his breath. He didn't realize it was a coup until he saw the president, who had been killed. Minister Arya asked everyone else to leave first. She then solemnly said that President had contracted the steel virus. The Secretary General was very angry after hearing this. He also saw through her lie at a glance. And he also saw that Arya wanted to control the entire country with the army. And Arya also wants to enlist the Secretary General to assist in governing. But the Secretary General will never walk with the wolves. What era is it now? Still using violent revolution. Can you bear to lead the people into the midst of turmoil and danger? Obviously, the Secretary General is a good official dedicated to serving the country and the people. But Arya just found it laughable. You ask me what era this is. Now, even if there are 2 monsters threatening the world outside, and even if tens of thousands of soldiers die, the government will not launch missiles. Everyone knows clearly where the source of the virus lies, knowing that continuing like this will lead to the extinction of humanity. But still, it's a time of false kindness and hypocrisy, a time when dogs bite dogs. An era where the government needs to consider the citizens' opinions for their own interests. Perhaps such behavior would be acceptable in times of peace. But now is an extraordinary time. We must use extraordinary measures. So you've also been infected with the steel virus. Arya killed another person as she spoke. At this time, a soldier came in to report. It was found out that Gaia easily slaughtered 5 soldiers and then disappeared. Arya was so angry that her back teeth were about to explode. She fired several shots at the body of the president. She couldn't calm herself down even after shooting all the bullets. The soldier stood motionless on the spot, too scared to breathe. Arya calmed down and secretly instructed the soldier to handle the bodies of the president and Secretary General. She also ordered the soldier to use satellites to locate Gaia at all costs. Additionally, she had the soldier conduct steel infection checks on all officers. Her true intention was to make those officers submit to her. Otherwise, they would be executed on the grounds of being infected with the virus. She then quietly looked towards the president's seat. She took step by step towards that highest point of power.